Okay, at least for this forward to the Urantia book, I'm going to take this a paragraph at a time, and we're going to read the paragraph and we're going to talk about it. At least this first part. It's too good to pass up. So the forward to the Urantia book begins like this. In the minds of the mortals of Urantia, that being the name of your world, there exists great confusion respecting the meaning of such terms as God, divinity, and deity. Human beings are still more confused and uncertain about the relationships of the divine personalities, still more confused about the relationships of the divine personalities designated by these numerous appellations. Because of this conceptual poverty associated with so much ideational confusion, love that phrase, ideational confusion. Okay. I have been, notice this is an entity right off. But by the way, this forward, the story is that Sadler was going to write a forward to the Urantia book. And like shortly thereafter, they got a forward from the channel that was writing this whole thing, apparently. It's some form of automatic writing, I guess it's my best. They got a whole, boom, forward, 30 pages or whatever. I'm just, it's a huge thing. So even the forward itself to this book, coming from a celestial entity. So we'll get to that. Anyway, he says, because of this conceptual ideational confusion, I have been directed to formulate this introductory statement in explanation of the meanings which should be attached to certain word symbols as they may be hereinafter used in those papers. Those papers, talking about this Urantia book that's coming across in these papers from the channel, those papers which the Orvanton Corps of Truth Revealers have been authorized to translate into the English language of Urantia. The Orvanton Corps of Truth Revealers. You know, we're in the first paragraph of the forward, and it's got to be immediately obvious to people. And we're getting into either one of two things. Some pretty heavy science fiction, or something big. And Orvanton being, remember I said the imperfected but evolving universe that surrounds the central universe, and this sort of disk is divided into these 7 segments. Ours, the one we're in, they call in this book, in the English language, they call Orvanton. Now, does that mean when you get to the headquarters somewhere, there's some building that has the word Orvanton chiseled in it? I seriously doubt it. In fact, does that mean when you get to the other side, there's going to be people saying Orvanton, 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 Orvanton? Probably not too much, in my estimation. Again, these names, these corny science fiction sounding names, are here simply to help us understand this massive amount of revelation that we're given. Okay, so everything has to be given a name so they can go back and refer to it without a great big sentence for every single item, just to tell us what they're talking about. And I'm not quite sure why they chose that name, especially those ones that are more abstract. They may be related to other words that help to connote helpful things. They may be completely arbitrary, or who knows, they may be related to some kind of conceptual denomination in some other way that really people do use on the other side to refer to things. But in this book, Orvanton is what they call our chunk, our 1/7 of the grand universe, the evolving universe. And they're saying, what's being claimed right here from the outset, is that there is a core, C-O-R-P-S, a body of, in other words, a group of celestial entities that have been given a task. So they have to drop everything they're doing, and they have to put together a revelation of truth to give to our planet, Earth, which they call Urantia for whatever reason. So the claim is that this, number one, is not simply, not only is it not just the meanderings of some inspired psychic or medium, not only is it just a chunk of channel material like you'd normally get from a deep trance channel, they're claiming that this is unique in that it has been meticulously compiled as the work, as the revelation that was meticulously constructed by an entire body of celestial entities who were given the task from above, even them. And apparently this mandate came from the Ancients of Days themselves, which the Ancients of Days are to a large degree, as far as I understand it at this point, they are the representation of divinity at the highest level, at the capital of our 1/7 of the universe. See, look at how long it takes me to say that, instead of just saying Orvanton. And imagine how fat this book would be if they didn't use names like that. So hence Orvanton, highest level of God himself present in representative form of some sense in these Ancients of Days who give this mandate to a group, apparently kind of variegated group of different types of celestial entities of all various kinds. They were assembled, put together, and they're given this task. You are given this job of putting together in English, I guess because it's the most, to a large extent, kind of global language we've got at this point, or had in the 20th century, and still to a large degree now. Maybe it's becoming even more that way, I'm not sure. So of all things in English, they have to, and right away in this introduction, not too far down the line here, they're going to say how impossible of a task it is to try to take even the limited revelation they're attempting to give and boil it down into something as crude as the English language, and using that to communicate to minds as limited in conceptual awareness as ours. But nevertheless, that apparently, according to them, according to this forward, very first paragraph, is the task that they were given. And that's right, here we go. Right in this second paragraph, it is exceedingly difficult to present enlarged concepts and advanced truth in our endeavor to expand cosmic consciousness and enhance spiritual perception when we are restricted to the use of a circumscribed language of the realm. But our mandate admonishes us to make every effort to convey our meanings by using the word symbols of the English tongue. We have been instructed to introduce new terms only when the concept to be portrayed finds no terminology in English which can be employed to convey such a new concept, partially or even with more or less distortion of meaning. So, right away, we get this concept where if there's any shred of truth that we had, if we had a word for it, they'll use it. They're trying to obviously in an effort to communicate with us the most effectively possible, trying to take any shred of fact that we had that bore some semblance of truth, some in any way had reflected the reality. They were going to use those concepts. They were going to use those words. And, and so for the guy that has the complaint that Lucifer obviously was a term people made up because of mythology about the devil, therefore, if the Urantia Book mentions Lucifer, it must all be false. Well, here you go. Sure, granted, our conceptualization of the devil was wrong. None of these things. As you get into it, you get this impression. Nothing that we thought was what we thought it was, and quite the way we thought it was. But come on, you talk to any fundamentalist Christian. You get down and sit down and talk to them, and you get into this kind of discussion where, hey, when we get to heaven, is anything, once we find it all out, is anything going to turn out to be quite the way we thought it was? Well, no. They'll all say that. No, obviously, we always see through a glass darkly. So it shouldn't come as a surprise that erroneous concepts that we have are utilized in this book, or at least the names are utilized in this book, because that's what they say they're doing. They're trying to take, if anything bore any semblance of reality, or came close, they're going to use that terminology, but of course try to be as clear as they could in explaining the way things really are. And this isn't just theosophy. This isn't just Charles Leadbeater coming to you and saying, this is the way the world works. I know because I'm cool. With no, why are we supposed to believe them? He's just another person. And that's what turns me off when it comes to far and away most of the literature on these kinds of topics. You just have people coming out and saying, this is the way this is. This is the way this is. This is the way it is. And if you have 100 people saying it, you have 100 different versions of the way the universe is supposed to work, and everybody is just completely insistent that their way is the right way, and they've got it all down. And who are they? It's like, what kinds of, are they even claiming to have any kind of elevated powers of psychic perception? And most of the time, they're not even trying to make that kind of claim. They just start lambasting you with information, just because apparently they like doing it. So that gets us nowhere, and nobody in their right mind is going to pay attention to that, because or at least be guided by it, because there's no ethos, there's no respect, there's no reason why they should pay attention to it. But here, the claim is, and that's one of the things that appealed to me about this book right off, is the claim is, I am this person, a person like writing this, and this guy says this in the end of one of these papers. Heck, I'm going to read it. I think it's when he gets, it's not the end of the forward, I think it's the end of the first paper. Yep, because it's the same guy. He gives us an abbreviated title at the end of the forward. And the same guy at the end of the first paper, he tells us this. Most of them just say presented by and give their title. But this time, at the end of the first paper, he says this. Presented by a divine counselor, a member of a group of celestial personalities assigned by the Ancients of Days on Uversa, the headquarters of the seventh superuniverse, to supervise those portions of this forthcoming revelation which have to do with affairs beyond the borders of the local universe of Nebadon. I am commissioned to sponsor those papers portraying the nature and attributes of God, because I represent the highest source of information available for such a purpose on any inhabited world. I have served as a divine counselor in all 7 of the superuniverses, and have long resided at the paradise center of all things. Many times have I enjoyed the supreme pleasure of a sojourn in the immediate personal presence of the Universal Father. I portray the reality and truth of the Father's nature and attributes with unchallengeable authority. I know whereof I speak. Look, people, a human could not have said that better. There's no more emphatic language anyone could use to say this is no mere human penning down his inspiration. This is straight from the horse's mouth, as good as you're going to ever possibly get it, as good as you could possibly get it. I know what I'm talking about. So again and again, you get this, here's this given entity giving a given paper or a series of papers, and the whole thing that you get is, they know what they're talking about. They serve in this or that position. They deal with this stuff on a daily basis. It's not just conjecture to them. It's not just hearsay. It's their reality that they live and breathe in all the time. And people, that's different. That's perception. That's their reality. These people live there, and they're the ones telling you about it. It's not just some kind of vague, inspired writing. So, there you go. Our coverage of the foreword to the Urantia book continues.